obviously like Burnside and like other parks, but it was like mainly the only place that was super close where you had the means to skate indoors.
I've never been there. I've never been to Portland. I've always wanted to go specifically for Burnside
Yeah,
because I would go to FDR like at least 2-3 times a year,
yeah,
going to skate. And I've just always fantasized of going to Burnside.
yeah. I mean,
And
it's
just like the that big wall
big
that's
bank
almost like a
wall.
bank, but it's like looks steep.
It's steep, but it's mellow. That's what's crazy. It's like because
Yeah.
the transition's super mellow. It's hard to explain because it kind of like it's fully transitioned, but it like kind of pockets, and then it's like a tight pocket, but then it's like a mellow bank, so you can kind of like loop out at the bottom.
Seen so much
You
footage,
know?
man, of people killing it there, and like,
Yeah,
there was this one clip of Trujillo, and he's just like pumping the whole park so fast
yeah,
to the point where it's really dangerous. Like he's not doing a trick, but like if anything goes wrong, it's over. And then he gaps the whole fucking park.
yeah.
Like he gaps from one quarter into like this small quarter.
Oh, he went from like probably the spine into the pillar, or
Gaps
like
the whole shit
pillar
and
into
lands
the
with like his
spine.
ass almost on the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Like barely. Like, and I'm just like, dude, that is the fucking place, man.
I mean, like Choppy Omega and like like the Natural Concepts guy, and then Mark Red Scott, who was like the originator of like building that park, or the founder of Dreamland skate parks. And it's interesting how they skate, and like Josh Falk and like Mike Chin and all these like Burnside legends, and then you have Emile Laurent, and like Emile is like encapsulates everyone, and like Brent actually as well, like can't forget about him. And like Emile Laurent encapsulates all those people. Like Emile's done gaps at Burnside that like oh, the Choppy Omega gap, but Emile did it the other way. And we're like, oh, the gap from like the spine into the deep, like he gapped from the spine like into like the deep bowl, and it like it's like completely blind because it's like it's very vert, and like it's just like
It's like I feel like too, at least at FDR, like the locals there, they get so nasty at they know every crevice because the DIY nature of the park makes it so that the quarters aren't perfect. And there's parts that like if you never skated before and you're gonna hit it for the first time, you might eat so much shit.
Yeah.
And like they just know it. You know what I mean? Like I seen this one dude at FDR do feeble fakie on a quarter that you should not be able to feeble fakie on.
Right.
Like your tail's hitting the ground before anything else does.
And I think there's that element of like if you like design the DIY, it's kind of like designed to like your specifics of like how you skate. Like a TBS train bank spot that Pontus built in Malmo is like a perfect example of you go there and you try to skate it, you're like, dude, this is nearly impossible. But then you watch him skate it and you're like, oh, you DIY'd this like for how you skate.
It's like a park tailored to you.
Exactly.
Which is mad cool.
Yeah, and it's sick because like you watch him skate there and you're just like, the lines and the way that it works and how he pumps stuff, you're like, okay, that's how it works, but you try to mimic it and it's like, I don't skate that way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same. That's how I feel at Burnside. I'm not like a big transition individual at that park because I haven't spent a whole lot of time there. It's lumpy, it's inconsistent. You know, you got to know the nooks and crannies. So when I'm in there, I'm like pushing on the flat bottom, you know, and like just kind of making a fool of myself. But you know,
so how do you feel? How do you feel now? We're talking about New York. We're talking about Oregon. I was kind of gonna get into life in New York and what it's like for you. And I guess you kind of said you're starting to feel like the city is maybe a bit too much. And I feel like that's a common thread. A lot of people over time, they start feeling that way.
Yeah.
Even people who live here, like, you know, live half here, half somewhere else.
Right.
Just because it's very dense, you know, and, you know, mad love and it has tons of positives, but it is very dense. There's just no denying that.
Yeah. I mean, it just has like, I mean, I guess there's just all sorts of different like little nuances. Let's say like, you know, you could live in like my apartment, for example, like I pay an amazing, you know, my rent's very cheap for like what I have, but it's like, and my landlord's a great guy, but it's like, he's not going to accommodate for me. You know what I mean? It's like I pay probably a third of what I should be paying realistically compared to like the property value around me. But it's like no one else lives in my building except for me and my landlord. And it's like if I'm out, then he's out. You know, like he's kind of has to rely on like my situation, or at least I think. But and that's where it's like, well, if I have damages in my apartment, like he's not going to come fix that shit. You know, and it's like if there's like kind of just like a lot of stuff in New York you got to do for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so I guess over time, like you do that so much. I mean, that's fine, but it's like, when I'm at my girl's place in Portland, it's like, hey, the fucking washer and dryer doesn't work. And it's like, all right, be there tomorrow, send in the work order, it just stuff gets fixed like that or whatever. But also, yeah, New York, it's just, I used to not be bothered per se, like walking down Broadway and like, bumping shoulders with like thousands of people. But now I'm just like, I feel like it's almost getting more and more saturated with like tourism and things like that
I think so
now.
too.
Like it's crazy.
I might
Like,
be bugging, but I kind of think so too.
yeah, like and then I could care less about like, I don't have I don't have any viewpoint on like the immigrant thing that's going on. I'm not going to say it's negative at all. But I mean, like, dude, like, we have a lot of fucking people here now, and it's crazy. I mean, you go to Midtown, and it's sad. You see all these people like homeless outside of the hotels. It's just not.
It's like that shit.
It's getting depressing. I
guess it gets depressing.
Yeah, like I used to
just
think New
of
York,
like the human condition.
Yeah, like I feel like New York City is like a perfect example of like every aspect of the human condition. And so you see all of that. And like you don't really see a lot of homeless people here because I mean you can't survive. And
compared to West Coast, compared to SF, Seattle.
I mean even
SF
Portland, it's crazy. I mean the weather sucks there, but I mean we have like, an insane homeless population. But here it's like you might see like 100 in a year. You know what I mean? It's rare. Like I feel like you don't really see homeless people.
You don't see like encampments where they're like straight settled.
Right. If you do, it's on the train.
They've now settled, and like it's like its own little ecosystem now.
Yeah.
There's like rules, and there's just shit going down. You know what I mean? That
Absolutely.
It's its own ecosystem, and you don't really see that out here. I think it's like you said, because you can't survive. The winter is just gonna come and fuck you up so bad.
Yeah.
Why would you do it here if you could do it in SF and like somehow make your way to SF? Like you could have an RV in SF. Or like in fucking, I'm pretty sure it was FS where SF.
I mean, the whole West Coast has like the open camping laws. So if it's public property, you can camp there.
Dude,
so that's why there's like massive encampments and like that's why Skid Row can exist.
Yeah.
In like LA is because it's public property per se. And like it's a public area. You know what I mean? Like a road isn't like private, or I mean, I'm sure it's owned by like whatever California Bureau of Transportation, but like ODOT in Oregon, I mean, there's so much of it, and it's like it's public property, it's free land, so you can camp there. Like, there's no issue with it.
But it's illegal to do that here.
Yeah, so I mean, like in New York, I don't think you can like park an RV on the side of the street. And, like,
I mean, you can't park your regular car on the fucking side of the street here. You know what I mean? They don't even.
But like Oregon, like if it was like just like let's say it's like a strip of highway, and it's just a gravel road, like gravel whatever, like side road next to it, like for the whole way, like you just pull over and like essentially post up shop and live there.
Like if you have an RV, you could just live there.
Yeah, 100%.
100%.
Yeah, like there's streets that like like the they don't have like hour parking. Like it's kind of like you can park there for the rest 8 hours to go like to like the park or whatever and like go on a hike. So you'll encounter those areas where it's like a whole like 10-mile strip and it's just like boom 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 one after another. But I'm not bothered by it. Honestly, people are trying to live and survive. Yeah, I'm not going to knock them for that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, in New York City, I just think that it's getting, whether it's tourism or something, it just feels like there's just so many people now. I don't know what it is.
It's got to be one of the most densely populated cities in the world. Like,
absolutely,
it's got to be. And if you live there, you're gonna feel it to some extent. Do you think that you could still be living off of skating if you lived in Portland, or do you think New York facilitates that?
I mean, it's, aesthetically, it's like I moved to New York for skating, and it was like because of like static videos and like the appeal and like the aesthetic look of skateboarding here, like that was like why I came. I was like, and it's New York City, but I was just like the videos I'd seen, East Coast skateboarding, cellar doors, bar hops, like that's not stuff that we have out west per se.
Just like spots that aren't even spots. Just you can cruise down the sidewalk and just like hit shit up.
We have there's just in a different style of skating or sorry, different style of skating, different style of architecture, whatever it may be, sidewalks and shit. So skating here, I definitely think is easier. I mean, there's a lot more to utilize, but in Portland, it's weathered and it's like not a whole lot of I'd say a lot of people that try to come out of there kind of get disrespected and they don't like get the love that they deserve. but it's like you could put in a lot of effort and find a shitload of spots.
Hmm.
Like if you have, if you just rub brick and like a new common one is a big blowtorch, like a propane tank and this huge blowtorch, and you dry the ground. But I mean, yeah, if you have rub brick and lacquer and Bondo and all that stuff, I mean, you can make a lot of stuff. Or like angle grinder and a Sawzall and like cut some knobs off, cut, a little thing here and there. And I'm not trying to advocate for vandalism and things like that, but I mean, that city I could be there for a whole month and like it could be the last day of my trip and I'm like, oh, first cop I've seen in 30 days. We don't have a police presence in New York or in Oregon. So I mean, you can just be like, all right, well, I'm gonna like just rub brick the sidewalk, like, and no one's gonna say anything. It's just a little more free, a little more lawless. So skating there, kind of like, I'm noticing you can kind of like get more from it, if you put the work in, I guess. Whereas New York skating, it's kind of like I get tired of, no disrespect to anybody, but I get tired of watching videos and it's all south of 14th Street. Like I'm sick of that shit. It's like
it's easy to get lazy.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a big ass city,
same shit,
and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like I'm getting in routines where I'm like, I used to go to Manhattan every day, I used to go to Bronx every day, Queens to lurk and just look for spots. And now I'm like, it's sunny out, I could just go get a coffee and like egg and cheese and just chill in the park.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I got PT tomorrow. Do I really want to like go walk around for like 5 hours today? No. It's like you just kind of mentally condition yourself.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, you hear this shit about when you make a living off of skating, the lack of structure affecting your life. I've talked to a few people about it and they kind of all share the same feeling of just like the lack of structure and the amount of freedom that you have causes its own style of negative aspect. Not that 100%. everyone's mad grateful, but everything comes with its yin yang.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that and how have you dealt with it and how do you deal with it now?
I mean, I've always kind of believed, idle time is the devil's playground, like that with that saying,
Yeah.
And I could use almost like my own life and like my career, like to attest to that. I mean, I didn't really know I had a drinking problem when I was like a kid. My dad's an alcoholic and whatnot. And I don't even know if I'm an alcoholic or if I just have like a weird, severe, like mental allergy to it. But I noticed that my downtime, or like when I started traveling, I took advantage of like that I was getting to travel. And then my downtime when I wasn't traveling, I didn't know how to like turn that off. So like I would be partying on a trip, and then when I got home, I didn't know how to, like I wanted that to continue because I was like, I'm living the dream. I was just in Greece or I was just in Spain, like, doing this, skating, partying, having a great time. And I'd come back here and I'd be like, I felt like stagnant, but then like I could take a break from it. But I just noticed that a lot of the time when I was in my drinking days, like if I didn't have anything to do, I was at the bar, I was doing nothing, and I didn't care if I like slept through like my days off, or not my days off, slept through like my weekends, or like was hungover for multiple days, blowing the good weather. I didn't care about that stuff. And then it was like kind of just more idle time. And then like with that, my drinking got worse with having more free time. And then I went through some like relationship nonsense, like when I was like 25. But yeah, I mean, I'd say not having structure causes, it created me to have mental health issues. I would say that. Like, I mean, they were probably already lingering, already there, pre-existing, but they didn't exhibit themselves until I started to have that immense amount of downtime. Until I started to realize I don't have a structure in my life. Go on a trip for 2 weeks, come home and be like, all right, I get to do whatever I want for 3 weeks. And I struggled with that, and then like, I didn't know how to regulate my anxiety, from like, I didn't enjoy traveling, like the act of flying. So I would be anxious and I'd like be anxious coming home. Didn't know how to turn off the anxiety. It just, for me, it caused a lot of issues. But then once I started getting better and like, once I got, help and things like that, I started to be able to appreciate the downtime and things like that. Or like just appreciate being able to like have no structure and be like grateful that I am in the position that I'm in and that I don't have to like worry about certain things that maybe the average person has to worry about every day. Like a lot of people are like, damn, you're hurt. Like, how are you going to make money? And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we're skateboarders. Most of us are on salary. We have contracts, so that's a common thing. But, mean, there's been times where like I've reached out to James at Labor and been like, hey, can I like come in and work? You know, this was years back. Or like at Theories being like, can I just come pack boxes? Like I'm losing my mind, like not having a structure. And then that was like that lack of structure and trying to find things to do. I was like, well, I can just go and pretend that I'm a Knicks fan and just sit at the bar. And so I just kind of did that a lot of the time.
So you basically have a scenario where you have you're making a living.
Yeah.
Like the structure of like a, let's say, a pro skater. You're making a living. You have enough to live. You're good. But like other than pockets of like having to film or do some stuff like that, maybe travel, you have a lot of free time, and you have it's like your hierarchy of needs is already met to an extent.
Exactly.
You're chilling, but like, you know, like now there's just endless, infinite spaces of time.
Right. And if you have vices or
well, that's what the thing with skating is like. As a little kid, you watch all these videos. You fucking, what do you know? You're gonna be a rock star. You're gonna be you're gonna do the thing. So like that's all that you know, and it's like people start skating super young. So by the time that you realize like how like engulfed your mind is in whatever thing, like a lot of my friends that I grew up skating with, like at one point in their lives, and some of them still.
Mm-hmm.
Like were real deal alcoholics at like 19 years old.
Right.
Like going to the bar every fucking day.
Yeah.
Mad young. Drinking like 240 racks, 230 racks and a 40, like daytime at like fucking 19 years old. And I'm like, it's like, and then it's normal. You know what I mean? Right. And then it's just like,
especially here too, I feel like it kind of gets more normalized too, you know, like
in New York.
New York, yeah. I mean, like you just kind of you get. I mean, I didn't have my adolescence here per se, you know, but it's like I could only imagine if I grew up here what I would have been exposed to at 12, 13, 14. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure I probably would have drank that much at that age as well, which is like.
So have you added structure in your life now, or like I know things are different right now because you're not skating,
right?
But how do you deal with that, and how have you came out on? It seems like you're at a better space now, and like you've come to conclusions on a lot of these things,
right?
And I'm assuming it's an ongoing process. You're working on it, but what steps have you taken to just, I guess, better yourself?
I mean, dude, in the beginning, like. I've journaled a lot. Like I wrote a lot of stuff down. I was in therapy for years. So like having therapy to do, like mental therapy over like Zoom and like in person, that gave me a place to be in like a time once a week at least. So that gave me a little structure in the beginning. But you know, when you start to like you work on projects, I've had like a couple video parts I worked on the last year. So that allowed me to have that type of structure because the dudes that I was filming with, they had jobs, and you know, like I had to like kind of work with their schedules, and then I'd just be like, all right, today I'm gonna like just rest and recover and whatever. So like that downtime didn't seem so intense. But like I'm losing my train of thought here again. I apologize.
No worries.
But I'm sorry, it was about creating structure.
Yeah. No, we were talking about
Jesus Christ.
No, this happens to me all the time too.
Yeah.
We were talking about just like I guess what steps you took to even create a structure, because really all the shit you're gonna do is like self-imposed.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess once I did the knee thing, that was like, you know, I was bummed because I was like, well, shit, like I'm gonna have like a whole year of like nothing to do, and then it's like, well, no, I have to do physical therapy, and then like. There was a lot of stuff I had to do at home to just get my knee to like get to a certain like mobility. But now, I mean, my structure is basically just like that I have PT. If I feel, you know, like, let's say anxious in my apartment because I'm like, yo, it's beautiful outside. And I'm like, you know, I feel like I'm wasting my time. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to go to the gym and just go work out. Like that physical activity, like boosts my mood, makes me feel better. I did something active. But I mean, I still obviously lack schedule, but I mean, I just try to find things now to occupy my time, like just have things scheduled, you know. I feel like this last month I've had a lot of just like going to the dentist, doing a lot of physical therapy, like going to just like random things with friends where I like, you know, even just making plans with friends. I went like axe throwing the other night. Like I've never done that in my life. And it was like, let's do this. And just kind of developing a structure like that. Like I want to be like a bowler. Like I would love to just go bowling. I like to rock climb, so I was doing some indoor climbing for a while.
I'm pretty sure Jameer fucking Jameer Brown, be bowling.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's
Like nasty,
almost like a
yeah,
pro bowler.
yeah.
And then like tons of dudes like indoor rock climb, you know what I mean? And I was doing that for a bit, and then like I obviously can't fall off a mat now and like land on my knees, but I just found like other little like sports and things like that to occupy my time like before I was injured. Rode my bike a lot, tried to just like get in the routine of like making breakfast, making a smoothie, just having a routine, honestly, like helps a lot with that downtime. But I mean, again, my main thing is I just can't sit in my apartment all day. You know? So it's, even if I don't do something crazy, I got to go walk around. But
you see skaters into different shit now too, you know?
Yeah,
like see like Donta Hill, he'd be boxing, or
yeah, like I watched all these things, all the ones with your, like what you guys do, and like, you know, John Fitzgerald like big into boxing now, and like surfing.
I went to I was in San Diego training jiu-jitsu, and I went to a gym called Surf Fight. And I'm rolling with some dude, and I swear he looks familiar, but he's just like a regular person in the gym, whatever. And we're fucking sparring and stuff, and it's cool. And like he's like afterwards, like we're talking, and then he gets in his, I don't want to blow up his spot, so I'm not even gonna say fully everything because I don't know what's out there for his shit.
Right.
But basically we end up talking, and then my homie talks to him, and then after they were like, oh yo, that was fucking my friend was like, my friend knows nothing about skating. He's just like a dude from the Bronx who trains jiu-jitsu with me. And then but he came out to San Diego with me. My homie was like, yo bro, I was talking to that dude, he's a fucking pro skater. And I was like, yo, I know that, I fucking know that, like I realized that now. And it was that dude Chris Russell.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Transition skater.
Yeah, I mean, he looks. I've watched something with him where like it shows him like training.
Yeah.
And then like going skating, and I was like, oh, okay, like, and I mean this no negative way. I was like, oh, your body type and everything like makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Like, you're a beast.
Yeah, no, he's a fucking beast, dude.
Like, raw dude.
And his skating is fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm not a huge like. I mean, I love transition skating, but like that type of transition skating, like I'm all about it.
That's the crazy
and like
shit.
Oski shit, but like that, like his like powerhouse shit.
Power shit, yeah. And so that, and then like you also see skaters get into different like creation of art, right? You know, like Jim Greco's hammers. For me, that's just like an art project. Right. It's also clothing and product and stuff, but like I get hyped on that shit, man. Like when I see skaters doing shit, or like Dill's shit with like FA and FA radio, and like all the projects that they do, it's very inspiring. You know, now also like as people who from skating get into music and creating music, and it just pumps me up. Yeah,
I mean, like Sage is like Elsesser, you know, I mean, he's pro skateboarder and like famous rapper, R&B, well, you know, whatever.
Yeah. And the thing is like skating, I feel like it opens the doors to a lot of things. And also like you learn so much through skateboard. And like I feel like the biggest like knowledge waves of my life was just watching full lengths, checking out the track, and then like checking out every artist on the track and like their main album, and listening through the albums growing up.
Right. Yeah.
And then I feel like that leads to a lot of like cultural awareness of just like history and life and shit like that.
Yeah.
That I didn't realize while it was happening was like a huge thing, and like a backbone, because a lot of people don't have that. Like you don't have like fucking kids who are 13 years old like just like Googling different like jazz or reggae or like hip hop, like especially older stuff. They're more so listening to what's on the radio. But if you're a skateboarder, you're watching these full lengths and you're hyped on these tracks, and you're exploring and you're doing your like research yourself just because it's fun. And it's kind of like in a weird way, like at least for me, it was like a part of skateboarding was like, yo, that song was ill. It's actually iller because I seen it match to that skating. I like understand the song more now because I've seen like the energy it could be applied
and you, like,
to.
Know the lyrics now because you've like seen it so.
You've seen it so many times, like.
And now like the lyrics, you're like, oh, that's okay. And
I walked into like a thrift store the other day, like an actual thrift store, not like a thrift store that like a jacket's gonna be like $200.
Yeah, like a
Savers type of deal.
Yeah, or like through like a church or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were playing a song, and I was like, that's crazy. It was some song that Windsor James skated to in the Circa video. Whoa. And I was like, that is so sick. And it just reminded me of like, I was like, I'm gonna go home and watch that.
Like think about who, like any song other than Tony Tave's part, honestly.
You're talking about It's Time?
Yeah.
Dude,
that video was crazy.
I got that video. That was the first video I ever got, I think. I got like a pair of shoes
Mm-hmm.
from skate shop, and they were just giving that video with all the pairs of shoes or whatever it had deal they
Yeah.
had. And I had never heard of Circa because I just started skating, and it was in a little thing. It's time. I put it in when I got to my crib on my PS2, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. Like John Ali skate to Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Gypsy Woman. I had never heard Black Sabbath in my life. And like that style of skating, like skinnier pants, like front 180s down big stair sets.
Yeah.
I was like, this is fucking hard, dude. Holy shit. What did I just stumble into?
It's funny because like, yeah, like a lot of those videos, like, and it's still like kind of a trend today that I'm trying to understand. And I'm not trying to diss anybody by any means, but like the band shirts, like that's what introduced, like, it wasn't so much like the music per se, but it was like, oh, why does this dude keep wearing this shirt that says Pink Floyd on it? Why is this dude wearing these like Leonard Skinner and Led Zeppelin shirts all the time? Like Fallen videos and just all that like Tell Me Out Zero, Black Box stuff. Like it was all band tees. Mm-hmm. Like that's what like introduced me to those bands, was that, like, not the music they actually skated to. Because hardly like the way they dressed matched the music they skated to. You know what I mean? Like Led Zeppelin shirt and skating to Black Sabbath. Mm-hmm. But like I was like, oh, like what are these bands? You know what I mean? My dad would be like, oh, it's one of the most famous rock bands of all time. You know, da da da. So for me, like that was a funny introduction, like into like music, let's say, and then like you watch like an East Coast video growing up, like, you know, EST or like Eastern Exposure or
EST is so good.
Yeah. And then like, or even my first 4-on-1 I had was, I forget if it's 17 or 19, but it's all like Fairman's leftover footage from Philly. It's all
Fairman Skate Shop.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a Fairman Skate Shop like shop check thing, and it's like Carrie, Maldonado. Sorry, it's all Toy Machine like B-roll. So it's everything from like Jump Off a Building and Welcome to Hell, like didn't make it, and like they make like a whole Philly like 4-on-1, and it's like they have a First Division wheels section. There's just so much Philly footage and like East Coast stuff, but it's like the difference of like that video from like watching like Fulfill the Dream, let's say, and it's like the same time frame,
it's crazy,
same year. It's like, you know, kickflip back tail, or like kickflip back tail, shove it back tail, kickflip out, like whatever Smolek's doing, you know. And then it's just like Ricky Oil like pole jamming onto like this big like marble block, and it's just like, that was the video that I watched growing up skating. And so I like kind of had this like appreciation for like low impact, and then all of a sudden I saw like, I don't know, like the first like insane video, like maybe Modus or something, and it was just like, I was like, whoa, there's this whole other side of skating, you know, that's like dudes hucking and this, that, and the other. But
did you feel like you needed to change your style when you saw that shit, or not really?
Not really, but it was just kind of interesting to see, like, I guess when I'm to circle back to the music thing, it's like all the West Coast videos always seem to have like a very specific taste of music, and then the East Coast videos, all of a sudden it was hip hop.
Yeah.
You know, so it was very like split and divided, it seemed. Like you weren't seeing dudes on the East Coast, maybe Bam or someone like skating to some like metal or whatever, but I feel like it was not the same, you know, like,
yeah,
you wouldn't have some dude skating a Molly Crew from like New York or whatever.
It's cool too,
TNT
like
doing that. And
yeah, it's cool too, like the outliers. Like you have like the East Coast, the West Coast, then you have a dude like Paulo Diaz skating to some like Native American drum beat,
or like him just playing the flute, you know,
just like doing the craziest switch ollies,
yeah,
and just nollies.
I remember watching, it was something on like Fox Sports Net or like one of those old sports shows, and it was like Apollo Diaz, like it was like a thing, but it was from the Big Brother video. And it's like him like playing the flute and like the drums, and he like nollies over tables and like switch ollies over like these like tall bike racks, and it's this whole like Adidas thing too. But it was so sick.
Do you ever go on his Instagram?
I follow him. Yeah,
he'd be fucking killing it,
yeah,
and everything
amazing.
he's doing,
He's
just like
amazing.
playing guitar or whatever with a mask on.
Yeah, he's so sick.
And he'd be skating like a small quarter and just doing like ollie and then like grab back into the quarter. That shit gets me pumped, man.